once we pointed out the dangerous items that were behind the pack and play, such as the shards of glass on the picture frame, she did say that she had moved it over more to cover the top.
So had the child went out the back of the pack and play, then that baby would have been covered in glass?
Most likely, yes.
Okay. Did she explain to you what kind of child this victim was?
She did. She said that he was very difficult. She had difficulty consoling him. Like, she couldn't console him. He would cry. She said that he cried a lot. She described him throwing items. She described him destroying her daughter's room.
I want to interrupt you, I'm sorry. By her daughter's room, do you mean the room where the incident occurred?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She described him doing some headbutting as well.
So as a difficult child?
She described him as a difficult child, yes.
Okay.
Difficult to care for.
Did she describe to you on the day of the incident what had occurred?
She did. She said that she had placed the baby in the pack and play for his nap.
Did she say about what time she placed him in the pack and play?
I want to say that she said right around 4. I could be off on that time frame a little bit. And she described that, of course, the mattress was over the pack and play. And described he cried for a little bit. She didn't go in and check on him, and then he stopped crying, and she assumed that he had fallen asleep.
So from the time that she laid him down, you said somewhere around 4, maybe a little after, do you know what time the 911 call came in?
The first 911 call was placed at 6:12 p.m.
Are you aware of whether or not anyone checked on this child from the time she laid him down until the 911 call came?
As far as who located him, we were informed by Mrs. Napier that her son, who was a juvenile, that she had asked him to go in and check on the baby, and he did, and he came back out and told her he was not okay.
So she didn't go check on the baby at all? Her son did?
Correct.
Okay. Did she describe to you when she finally went in there, how was the child positioned?
So the pack and play obviously has 4 sides. You've got 2 long sides, 2 short sides. She described his neck being on one of the short sides and pinned between the top rail and the mattress.
And so throughout the course of your investigation, you learned that his neck was on that rail, and what caused him to stop breathing?
It would be, and of course I'm not giving the medical opinion, but his neck was being compressed between that rail and the mattress that would just eventually cut off his airway.
And your office went to the medical examiner's autopsy, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware of the cause of death?
I don't know that it's like an official, but I do know that the doctor had made a statement to the other detective that attended that it was asphyxiation.
I have nothing further.
Does the defense have anything for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Detective, what's the relationship between my client and the child?
Babysitter.
And so that's why the child was at her house on July 11th?
Yes, sir.
How many days had the child been at her house?
To say for certain, I don't know, but it sounds like a few days.
You're the lead detective on this case, right?
No, sir, but I've been present for most everything involved in the investigation.
There's somebody else who's heading up this investigation?
There is a lead investigator, yes.
Who's that?
Detective Wiseman.
So this question had been asked, how long the child had been at the house, right?
Yes, sir.
And been asked both to my client and to the mother and the child and everybody else, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you don't know the answer?
Seems like there were varying answers provided.
Ms. Napier was in contact with the child's mother, right?
She said that she was. Well, and actually, I mean, I know from the mother that yes, she was by phone.
Okay. And you've seen those phone messages, right?
I've seen a few of those.
So was she in contact with her around 4 o'clock on July 11th?
I'd have to review those messages to be certain. What I do remember is on July 11th that there were messages in the morning hours.
Was this the first time that Miss Napier had taken care of this child?
Miss Napier said that she had taken care of him on 3 or 4 other occasions.
Is that true? Did you find out that was true?
I do not know that to be verified, sir.
Y'all spoke to the mother of the child, right?
Yes, sir.
And these questions were asked, right?
I remember focusing on how long he'd been there on this particular occasion.
Which was my prior question.
And I
So
know, and
that
I'm
focus
sorry
did
that I'm not
lead
able
you
to
it.
answer it because I've heard so many different answers. I feel confident in telling you he'd been there a few days on this occasion.
She's charged with child neglect, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's legally the unreasonable failure of a custodian to exercise a minimum degree of care to assure the minor child's physical safety and health. And so we know what happened to the child, but why is she being charged with neglecting the child?
Gosh, I feel like some of these answers would come from a mom's opinion, and I don't wanna throw you my opinion.
You're here testifying.
Hold on. Please answer the question.
So, you've got a pack and play that, has an open top. That's the way it's designed, that's the way it's manufactured, that's the way it's intended to be used, is with an open top. It's not intended to be covered, much less covered with a queen size mattress that would be heavy. Obviously leading to a young child getting pinned between the top rail and a mattress. And, she didn't go in and check on him. Perhaps if she had checked on him, this would have been discovered sooner.
Didn't go in and check on him for what period of time?
Okay, so like I said, I'm going to say it would have been between 4 and 6-ish, because the 911 call was at 6:12.
So possibly for 2 hours, she didn't check on him.
Yes, sir.
And so is it placing the mattress over the pack and play, or the not going in and checking on it?
Judge, I'm gonna object. She's already answered the question as to why she was charged with child neglect resulting in death.
Your Honor, I think it's a fair question to ask exactly. There's 2 details been given. I'm about to ask about the 2 details, and I'd like to.
I think it's a reasonable question.
Is it the placing the mattress over the pack and play, or the not checking on him for
Judge,
2 hours?
For the record, I want to clarify my objection. I don't think that there is anything in the statute that requires it to be one specific cause.
Well, I think both could be a fair answer. I mean, she needs to answer the question.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand the question, right?
I do.
What's your answer?
I would speculate that ultimately the placing of the mattress over the playpen is what led to his death. She did also tell us that she had heard him crying for a while and then he stopped. So, a reasonable person may have gone in and checked just to make sure he was okay at that point when the crying stopped. Or, maybe she would have discovered him before this happened.
So that might have happened, or she could have done that, but does that mean that you're able to make a judgment as law enforcement that it was unreasonable to not check on him?
Again, Your Honor, I'm going to object. It calls for a legal conclusion. I think that she has answered why if this was charged the way it was charged. I think the facts have been testified to are clear as to why it was charged the way it was charged.
Mr. Sullivan.
I'll withdraw the question. Is there any evidence at all that Ms. Napier intended to harm the child?
Judge, I'm going to object. Intent is not an element of this offense.
I agree. I don't think the intent is not part of this.
Your Honor, okay, I'll withdraw the question. To your knowledge, was Ms. Napier, taking proper care of the child before this incident happened around 4 o'clock on July 11th?
Your Honor, I'm gonna object again. This does not, anything that pertained to what she did before does not pertain to why she was charged with the crime that occurred.
Your Honor, I think if my client, was taking care of a child, reasonably taking care of a child, it goes to the totality of whether her care of this child was reasonable.
Your Honor, again, I don't think it's relevant to whether or not she was acting reasonable at the time of the offense. Just because someone acted a particular way in the past doesn't mean they're acting the way at the time of the
I
offense.
agree. Detective Powell, you're not gonna use that question.
Yes, sir.
You spoke to Ms. Napier about, well, did you actually interview Ms. Napier?
I did on July 17th.
And there were other officers who interviewed her at other times?
Yes, sir.
Now, was this interview at where did this interview take place?
Kanawha County Sheriff's Office headquarters in an interview room.
So it was recorded, right?
Yes,
Okay. As were all her other interviews, right?
yes.
She told you, why she had placed the mattress over the crib, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the reason she did that?
To keep him inside because he could climb out.
And was she asked whether she thought that was a good thing to do or a reasonable thing to do?
I don't remember if that question was asked.
Was she asked, why, she didn't go into the room between approximately 4 and 6 o'clock?
I just remember her saying she thought he had gone to sleep.
So, the baby was crying, she put him down for a nap, she heard him crying for a while, and then she didn't hear crying anymore.
Yes, sir.
And she thought he had gone to sleep.
Yes,
Okay. And that's what she told you, right?
yes.
Okay. And eventually, after some time, she asked her other child, and how old the child are we talking about that went and discovered the baby?
Juvenile, but not a teen. I think he's 10 to 12.
Okay. So at some point, she asked that child to go in and check on the baby.
Yes.
What were the actual injuries to the baby, if you know?
I observed his injuries, so on the front of his neck, just very centrally located, pinkish purple. I don't know if I would call it bruise, if I would call it compression marks. He also had just small circular bruises on his forehead, and just some other small bruises on other places on his body.
If you're aware, was there any attempt to, well, actually, I guess the first question would be, do you know if the baby had passed away before paramedics had arrived, or was it after?
He was already passed away.
As far as you know, had he died before the 911 call? And I'm not
I
gonna
just have a
ask you,
medical opinion, but
if you don't know, you don't know, that's fine.
I know that I know the CPR was performed.
CPR was performed by paramedics or by people at the house?
I was told it was by Brittany.
Did she express to you in any way that she was trying to take care of this child the best that she could?
I would say yes, it's a fair statement.
have no further questions.
Is there anything else from the state?
So a very brief follow-up. With respect to how long the child had been in the care of the defendant, is it true that you got multiple different answers, not only from other individuals, but also from Brittany Napier as well?
Yes. I think at one point she made the statement he'd been there since like Thursday, but then she looked up some messages on her phone and she said, I'm sorry, I told you wrong. It was either Saturday or Sunday, and it may have been Sunday that she said he arrived. It was on Sunday. He was supposed to be picked up Tuesday, but then it was agreed upon that she could pick him up Wednesday.
Okay. And that was something that she had planned with the mother of the child, correct?
Yes.
One other question, with regard to what the defendant was doing while the child was in the playpen when he was crying and then